Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, skeletons and furries alike, welcome to episode 2 of the Bone Paw Podcast. I am your lovely host for this episode, Vito. And join with me is the equally lovely.
What feeling me?
And today we're continuing our topic on Kirby. Now, first things first about this puffball of destruction, let's tackle his inconsistent lore.
Kirby has one of the most headache-inducing lures that I could almost make the argument rivals Kingdom Hearts. Mostly because...
Ooh, controversial statements right there.
Hey, at least we don't have to go through 10,000 worlds trying to piece the thing together.
Remember, everyone, as of the time of this recording, we are done with the Xehanort arc.
Are you?
Hopefully.
Are you?
Listen, if he shows up again with that bald head and yellow eyes, I don't know how I'm going to handle it. But it feels a little disheartening that, like, the past 12 years has been one arc.
So, one of the most headache-inducing things out of Kirby isn't even just the lore with the games, because we can go on and on about who the hell Morphonites and all that. It's the lore, the games, the novels / manga, because yes, for those that don't know, there are manga series, comics, and novels for Kirby. And the biggest thing a lot of people take from is the show, which leads to many headache-inducing things, like does Meta Knight actually have wings or is it his cape? Which also doesn't help because of the Smash games.
But today's episode's about Kirby, not about Meta Knight. So...
I mean, he's part of the franchise.
He is on the long list of characters that are very cool as side characters, but also not.
We will never have a main focus Meta Knight game like we almost did with DDD.
We did. We almost did.
We had side stories. DDD got his own game, which was a rhythm game.
Yeah, but I still consider his
side stories.
I mean, he has a whole mechanic. Like, he has mechanics.
Yes, he does. But, back on track, Kirby game lore is the easiest out of it because, well, the staff seems to agree with a lot of things. Kirby is ultra powerful. He seems to be related or is the reincarnation of a death god of some sort, just the creation god, depending on which translation you pick from. Japanese make it sound like the creation god, elsewhere make it sound like a death god.
Okay, so for those that are kind of confused, let's reel it back a little bit. So, it is implied that Kirby and Void Termina are somehow connected.
Which is also connected to dark matter, which means gooey essence.
So, it is also that Kirby is what happens when dark matter has no negativity.
I give you positivity, you give me a puffball. That sounds like a win-win.
Now, in return, the universe needs to balance itself. So It starts making creatures that can equally match Kirby's niceness with their meanness. Such we get floating eyeballs of destruction.
That creates creatures that have stomach mouths sometime, which I hate.
Stomach mouths with eyes. Yeah. Yeah. Let's get an anatomy chart on that one.
No.
Here you can see this is where the eyeball socket is, and around it is where the jawline would be.
You know, that's inconsistently make it harder to eat if your head is an eye. Or if your stomach is just with the eyeball and teeth. Do you properly digest? Are you properly chewing? Is it just the chomp bears?
Or maybe we take a page out of the Kirby anime and it just sinks into the mouth part.
You're still upset about the Waddle Dee anatomy.
It's because the Waddle Dee looked at him with the utmost serious tone and just absorbed that apple. Like, it did not... There was no like, thought. There was no... this was just how it eats, and it looked at us like we were the ones that were supposed to understand. And meanwhile, we're looking at it going,
that's interesting.
I didn't know you eat that way. But going on. So Kirby is a very interesting character because it's implied that Kirby is so nice that the only thing that can counteract it is quite literally demonic entities from different dimensions.
AKL? Eldritch horrors. This is why it's well known for people to say Kirby's boss fights, when you get to the end of the game, is like, who summoned Cthulhu? Mm-hmm. Even though we have yet to have a squid final boss. The closest was Void Termina.
The bosses are always dark matter. Some
Dark
ways,
matter related, infused with the power of dark matter, ancient artifact from the ancients who we do not know, but maybe Magalore is connected to, which is why I'm super excited for this upcoming game.
which if you also read the light novels, which we can use to interpret certain things from the game, it is utterly that the butterflies that we see in almost every introduction of a Kirby game are actually the death gods of the universe.
They seem to decide if you can move on or not, because as far as we understand with the translation, Poppy, the blue butterfly that helps Meta Knight out in the novels, because Meta Knight dies in the novels and has 3 days to get back to his body. But oh wait, the afterlife does not have a day and night cycle, but you do have these flowers that tell you. So it does have a day and night cycle, just doesn't look it.
And what's interesting about that is that because if you take that and follow the implications for it, that means that there are certain points in the Kirby intro where the butterfly is kind of checking to seeing if, Kirby, is it your time? Nah, it's not your time yet.
Which is also makes it 10 times scary, because think about every boss fight Kirby has been when he falls back into like Popstar or Dreamland or anywhere and there are butterflies, they always land on him by the end. And, you know, sometimes somebody goes by and they leave, or he wakes up and they leave. So it's just this fun question of, so Kirby, these guys, they're your friends, or are they keeping a counter? Because you probably push that counter a lot.
Yeah, but going on into more of the complicated games, things get a little bit more complicated, especially when we introduce things like Planet Robobot.
Yep.
Where we find out that these ancient artifacts, such as the one that they're making at the end of the game.
Spoilers, it's a giant freaking Nova. And
Yeah.
if you know what a Nova is, you're scared. If you don't know what a Nova is, you must be new to the Kirby lore. Novas is basically this weird giant clock thing that has a cat face, and it can grant wishes.
Yes.
The original Nova, you had to collect like a bunch of stars to basically activate it. It grants you a wish. Mark stole that wish, and then we had to go fight a demon. I don't like Marks.
Marx is an interesting character that we can come back to, but circling back around, these wish-granting technology-based life forms have blueprints, have ways to make them. And it's interesting when you think about it, because these things can be made. These, like, high-tech, powerful entities, which has its own complicated enchantments on them. But going on, the reason why Planet Robobot is such an interesting part of the Kirby lore, because it introduces a couple of things. One, it introduces the fact that the Ancients' technology can be replicated, which in it by itself, before this, with Magalore's ship,
which is told to us it is an ancient, because it's part of the ancient language, dealing with Star Allies, because we get an ancient language. And we realize, like, Lore Star Cutter is translated, because lore means paradise. So it's Paradise Star Cutter. Or probably what it is, Star Cutting to Paradise.
which alone with that translation gives us plenty of connotations on what the ancients were actually up to. But let's reel it back just a little bit. Before this, we had no idea that the ancient technology can be replicated at all. We thought it was on a discovery basis, where it's like you found this thing, you touched it, and now you weren't supposed to. And now it's...
It makes sense, because thinking about it, we had a mirror that basically gives you a reverse world. We had a paintbrush that causes chaos, because of course it does. We had ancient swords that can defeat evil. We had ancient wands, aka the love stick. Yes, that is the actual name of it. It literally defeated dark matter. Let's not forget the whole fairy planet with the goddamn gun crystals. That was a thing.
That was, in fact, the thing. So, going more in depth into that, this is where Kirby fits into all of it. Where Kirby somehow, in some way, shape, or form, is always put in possession of these artifacts.
And he can use them with no problem.
Meanwhile, anyone that comes so much as near them starts getting these urges to be villainous.
Like the crown. Because believe it or not, yes, it is Maglar's, and technically spoiler for the upcoming game, but it is a remake. Magolor's whole point is to get a crown from the dragon, a four-headed dragon named Landia. He gets it, and then Dark Matter just says, yes, we were inside the crown all along. Now you will be evil and have all your chaoticness. He proceeds to want to take over the universe. That was not his intention in the beginning. His intention was to get the crown and just kind of use it for whatever reason. We did not fully know all the reasonings.
Now, if you are a fan of certain games involving Magolor, you can say that his goal was rather to just have the crown and go about his life, or you can say that his goal in life was to start capitalism and sell you his apples.
Or if you borrow a little bit from the novels or even from the manga, apparently he kind of wanted to help out his dying planet.
With his apples.
Not with the goddamn apples.
Buy my gem apples.
No!
You may gain power-ups through gem apples. Okay. We'll have Magolor leave the chat right now. I shall return with more apples!
God dang exploding crystal apples you can't actually eat unless you're marks. You can't eat them.
Okay, Wolfie's dilemma is that they are non-edible.
They're literally crystal apples.
I don't know, I think Spike might like them.
Yeah, of course the dragon's gonna like them. What dragon doesn't like freaking crystal apples?
So, yes. With that being said, Kirby, when going into all the things we just mentioned, has a knack for not only manipulating these objects, but actually using them. To the point that there are certain artifacts in the game that react directly because of him. Like that time in Planet Robobot. His mech, which was made from blueprints from ancient technology.
I don't think the mech was made from ancient technology. It's implied that it was like the corporation's own tech. But the interesting thing is the fact that Kirby's has such goodness radiating off of him. The mech is good.
But the reason why I say it was made from ancient technology is because a lot of what the corporation has in Planet Robobot was scavenged from ancient technology.
They also imply that they go from planet to planet and harvest their further materials, so that's the whole reason they even stopped at Popstar.
So, whether or not that mech was ancient technology, up for debate. So, this goes more into why Kirby is kind of important to the grand scheme of things. And this is going into theory time. So, we have two theories between the two of us that, or Wolfie may have more, since we haven't talked about this in a while. My first theory can boil down to a crack theory, where I believe that the Waddle Dees are actually secretly the Ancients.
It's gone on and on about how hilarious it would be if the Waddle Dees were the Ancients, because I pointed it out that every time we get a new, Kirby game, we get a new variation of the Waddle Dees, due to the fact that, there's always the quote-unquote minions of whatever, or the fodder enemy. The Waddle Dees, everyone likes to say they are the Goombas or the Koopas of the Kirby franchise. So we have them for, Halcandria, we have them when we were dealing with Triple Deluxe. Heck, we technically have them when we were dealing any Kirby game, really. Even in the Squeak Squad, we deal with Waddle Dees, but the Squeaks themselves were kind of like Waddle Dees. They threw bombs, though. I'm still angry at that.
So, going with that, the reason why I think that they're secretly the Ancients in disguise and following this one penguin is because anytime we drop them off in a planet, no matter what it is, they have a fully functioning society.
Okay, so the whole, Kirby and them going to a different dimension, potentially a new world, who knows at this rate, and make a society, it's told to us that the Waddle Dees fell a little bit before Kirby, thus explaining, that was a whole entire wormhole, black hole shenanigans, but still, they had enough time to build a whole entire town. And they're very, very resilient in doing so.
Yeah, they end up making entire shops, jobs, and everything else. And
we had an arena. We did not need an arena.
We did need an arena.
No, we didn't.
How else will we keep the masses entertained?
Only Kirby is fighting in the arena, and occasionally Meta Knight shows up because he wants his butt kicked.
Do you watch Let's Plays of Kirby?
Yes.
Then you watch Kirby fight. and you find it entertaining. Checkmate.
I should not have taught you checkers.
I said checkmate, not kingmate.
Yeah.
Now, that's one theory I have. The second theory is kind of a collab between me and Wolfie, is that Kirby is what's left of the ancients.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel that when the ancients ended up escaping whatever cataclysmic event was going on that made them escape, which, thanks to Forgotten World, makes us believe that
We have to shut the door because someone wanted to peek in.
I'm sorry about that. So, makes us believe that when they escaped, they were dealing with something very old, very powerful. And we know that they're no stranger to dealing with things that they don't understand. Looking towards our lovely friend in Forgotten World.
Elfilin.
Mm-hmm. And his very
I
buff...
can just open portals.
His very buff moth counterpart.
Elfilis.
Yes. So, they very much were dealing with things that they couldn't understand. And I really believe that one of those things broke out. And I think whatever it was a combination of Void Termina and what makes Kirby Kirby.
Okay.
You want to take it from here, or should I keep going?
I think you can keep going because I've been more focused on trying to figure out who or what the ancients were. And unless you want me to jump in with what I personally believe the ancients are, because we have yet to stumble upon that realm.
Let it rip. Let's go.
So, personally, I think the ancients were a mixture of different races, particularly 4. We know we have talking animals, because it is confirmed not just from D, but if we're going to different sources, the animal buddies can talk. I know in one of the games they don't really talk, they just make the animal noises, but others they do apply to talk.
If it surprises anyone, Rick kind of sounds like this when he talks.
Yeah, that's what we mean by the whole it's confusing with the different realms, including the show. Australian Rick.
I am, in fact, Rick.
So, talking animals or sentient animals, which I think was led on to the next thing, humans. I believe humans made talking animals, thus having them enough to be their own species. Sentient tech. Because we have had a few issues with bosses being robots or being mechs that seem to fight us for no other reason. Now, it's always implied maybe it's a security system, but we do have sentient technology, including one of the abilities, now 2, because we got Mech Kirby. We also used to have Jet Kirby, which I'm going to guess Mech might be replacing Jet, which I will be sad, because Jet was fun.
Well, I would like them to return Suplex, but...
Yeah, that ain't happening.
Suplex was awesome.
Suplex got absorbed into Fighter.
Okay, but, like, let us suplex our way to victory.
You can still suplex a Fighter.
Yeah, but, like...
You just want the blue headband.
Yes. I mean, I don't mind the red headband, but the blue one, just like,
You want your reference.
When you look at that blue headband, your brain understands. Suplex. You will be suplexed.
And the last side of it, going back on track,
Yes.
was aliens.
That were also suplexed by Kirby.
So what I think is that potentially speaking, we know tech and magic is a thing. We see that constantly in the Kirby, and heck, even the novels casually mention Meta Knight does not like magic. Meta Knight hates wizards. It's hilarious.
Which, as a melee build myself, I understand.
Screw the rules. You don't want to deal with those wizards?
Okay, look, I have nothing against wizards. I just don't like the fact that you keep saying, hey, it'd be a shame if I just froze you in place and you couldn't reach me. I'm like, it'd be a real shame if when you're not looking, I just reach for your throat. Be a real shame if that one happens.
So what I think happened is that there was an issue between technology and magic. where clearly one side is super religious, as we see with the Jim Bastion people, and we know there's tech, because how the hell do you make the novas? They're clearly made from tech and
Or
magic.
living tech, by the way.
Yes, and you can make the argument anything is tech. A mirror can be tech, a paintbrush can be tech, a crown can be tech, anything dealing with metal that can be infused with magic. So clearly, this four races were split into two sides. Yes for technology and yes for magic. What probably happened is one side did not like the other as much. Clearly, the magic side. As we know, they were the ones banished to the ends of the galaxy. This explains why Magula's like, yeah, I'm living in an alternate dimension. And why freaking Highness is just like, they have sealed us away, we did all the good things. It's like, what the hell are you going on about?
And it leads to a very interesting discussion, because if we go and take that idea and look at what's left in Forgotten World, where everything is very much tech and modern with very little magic.
Science, unless you want to make the argument science and magic are one and the same.
I think that's what they were doing with Elfalin. I think when they found little Elfalin, they were like, you are what's left of magic.
And they took.
And they try to make a battery.
Basically, because they did use Elfalin, or really Elfalis, because they ended up splitting, as a battery pack, so to speak. They used him to function for world hopping, because they mentioned that.
And one thing that kind of popped into my head just now, we never understood why would there be this kind of amusement park kind of, hey, here's the experiment.
It doesn't make sense unless he's been there for a bit and he's been docile.
Unless also he is the last magical creature on the planet. Now, I don't know about you. That would sell tickets.
It would, because you do find it close to the amusement park level.
Mm-hmm. And not only that, it would also explain why the intercom is just like, hey, everybody, check out this thing that we got.
God, I feel bad for, like, Facto Influence and all that, just because you heard that on a loop in a dying city.
Mm-hmm.
That is... Here we are.
At all times. So much so that when you take your corporeal form back, that is the only voice line that you can say. Like,
it says it's like code number and all that, and but that's the most loudest one. It's just like, okay, we get it. But it does make sense that Elfalis / Elfalin / whatever you want to call him at the rate.
We can call him Isekai because we got hit with a truck. We hit him with a truck.
Truck-kun saved the day.
Kirby saved the day.
Truck Kirby.
Kirby with the copy ability of Truck-kun.
Semi-Kerbo. But yes. So what probably happened is that before Elfalis with the humans, I think aliens, talking animals, sentient tech to a certain level, all kind of just dealt with each other. They were pretty much passive and fine, but it was split down the middle. Some who believe in this magic stuff, who can do the magic, who can show, hey, I can do this magic, and others who were more focused on tech. So there was a group that probably like, hey, can you infuse magic into this stuff? Because it's implied, for instance, a good example, crown. The crown is supposed to probably hold in all the good deeds or all just the past experience of whoever wore it.
Which, as a mechanic, works really well because you would have the knowledge of every king that came before you, or queen.
Just anyone who rules, but that's also an issue due to the fact if you were a bad one, how does that look? Because you're taking that person's point of view. So something clearly happens.
Yeah, I mean, like, it can't help if you just had, good king, good king, good king, Vlad the Impaler, good king, good king. Wait, did you say Vlad? Like, you can't, like, if you just, like, have that and it's just like, huh, that's interesting. And, like, what if you're like, I like being Dracula.
No. Why are you being Dracula?
Like,
you destroyed a whole entire nation.
Like, why not? It's just like, that's where that conversation starts getting a little mucky.
But that's probably what happened. I could even see, like, the mirror itself, because it never is explained why there is a mirror that just pretty much has a world that's implied to be the opposite, but more weird because we never get a full concrete anything. So why is there an opposite mirror? Is that supposed to like tell you you're on a good track, or was it originally a mirror that was supposed to be like, I will give you positive affirmation, positive like you can do this, and then something happened, which is easy to say. What probably happened is a fight broke out between tech and magic. Magic's going to be like, well, we powered up most of your technology, so we're going to place a little fancy curse on it. Oh, you're not listening to us for whatever reason? Maybe they even go a little too far with some of the stuff, which pushes them further out. Someone says, all right, we're going to summon the goddamn death god then, if you're not going to listen to us, because we should be the rulers.
So,
and then warriors step up and be like, we're going to fight you, which is probably the ancient four warriors that keep getting mentioned.
this goes into where we believe Kirby sits snugly into all of this. We believe that after some time when the death god showed up, or Void, and four warriors showed up, and we think that Kirby, along with his friends, make up those four warriors.
In a fun little word known as reincarnation.
Now, Kirby, we believe the reason why he's in an infantile state, which before you guys get too much into that, Kirby's not a baby, we know.
There are some who still say Kirby is a baby because of the anime, and for those that are a little confused on this, Kirby is depicted as a baby in the anime. Every other media of Kirby does not depict him as a kid.
No.
He literally is drinking alcohol in the original Japanese release of the second Kirby game. He gets caught cursing in a few things. Heck, he goes on a full-on banter between him and DDD that is just like, you're pushing it, bud.
So, with that being said, what I mean by an infantile state is the state of low power, where his full potential you can kind of see whenever Void turns into the big bad evil boss. Now, from there, we believe that at some point in time, Kirby, thanks to Forgotten Lands, and we're definitely diving more into what Kirby is and his connection to the Ancients, we'll get to see a steady progression into what Kirby species will become, and essentially where it would go. Like, some people like myself believe that Meta Knight and Kirby are in some way related, and that at some point Kirby will get a set of wings, because every time we do see a small puffball become powerful, they get wings.
Yeah, Mark's got wings. Gooey can technically fly even though he doesn't have wings. And even with Kirby getting the wing ability, it's now being placed more towards his back than before.
Not to mention Morpho Knight and Galactonite both possessed wings.
Now, there could be a situation where Kirby and Meta Knight are more like grasshoppers and locusts. They're the same species, but depending on your environment and the stress you felt could be different, and that would align more towards, hey, I was fed nonstop positive. Kirby was fed so much positive when being created, he does not have the ability to get the wings because there's no darkness in him.
Now, all that being said, this is what makes Kirby an interesting character in both his games and in lore. Kirby, by all definitions, has the full potential of a god of the cosmos inside of him. But it is said multiple times that Kirby doesn't know how to tap into his own power. And the only time he does know how to tap in his own power is when he's fighting up against creatures that bear a resemblance to him, and it drains him so much that he just passes out by the end of it.
There's way too many Kirby stories where he just clonks out and then wakes up and you're just like, well, that was something. I mean, he freaking is asleep at the end of Planet Robobot as the literal mech is like, go, goodbye. So, yeah.
And that's our take on Kirby. I believe that we can do a few more episodes on the other characters. This is more of a character analysis, and after that we can do as a whole where everything kind of fits in.
Yes.
And we'll sprinkle in different topics here and there. And I do hope that you all have a lovely evening.
Aww.
And remember, always check your doors and under the bed. You never know what could be hiding. Oh, and one more thing before we go. So remember our little message from the first episode? We're continuing on with that. It's less of a warning, more of instructions. We would ask that any one of you that are more aware of things to take a moment and enjoy the scenery. Really take in the nature around you. And if you don't like how little it is, see if you can make more. If there's a lot, listen to it. Take heed of everything it has to say, for maybe nature is calling people back. That's all, folks. And
Night.
may the moonlight guide your dreams.